Good morning on what is a cool, bright and sunny day. It is Thursday, September 21st. I've got a nice hot cup of tea and packaged on box. Now, this is familiar packaging. It's come from Drive-Thru RPG, and I can tell that automatically by the fact that it's going to be really difficult to open because of the glue on the packaging, and it actually came away relatively easily. And what we've got is this. Okay, this is City on the Edge Forever. Welcome to New Pavis 1619, the Pavis and Big Rubble Companion, Director's Cut Volume 1. Okay, so this is the latest release in physical copy from the Jonstown Compendium, which is the community content program for RuneQuest Roleplaying in Glorantha, published by Chaoisum. So, the Pavis Grand Plan. The year is 1619 ST, and something is stirring in old Pavis. As the hero wars loom and the old order comes under threat, adventurers from distant lands are being drawn to an ancient relic of the long-forgotten Dragon Empire. Not only for treasure or for glory, but for something more. Could it be the case that the old rumours are true, that the mysteries of Pavis City somehow endured the centuries, that the grand prospect began by Pavis himself never actually stopped? Grab your great axe, hop onto your zebra, and call for your trusty dwarf companion. The old city needs you. Welcome to Volume 1 of the Pavis and Big Rubble Companion Director's Cut, New Pavis, City on the Edge of Forever. Now, this was originally published in several volumes over the course, I think, of sort of like the noughties and the 90s and the noughties, and they've become quite collectible. You need to have a search around for them, but the author has brought that content back into several volumes like this. There's another volume, at least, which has not yet been brought to physical print. So, the thing is, Pavis and the Big Rubble are kind of imprinted upon the consciousness of your RuneQuest role-playing gamers, because back in '82, Chaoisum released two big supplements: Pavis, which is the city supplement, and then the Big Rubble, which was adjacent to it. Now, Pavis, or New Pavis, is a really kind of, is sort of like, is a tiny city. It's even more like a big town, but abuts what was once a massive city, old Pavis, which was reduced to rubble through a great calamity. But now home to tribes of trolls and chaos creatures and whatnot. It's a big adventuring landscape which you can go and explore, and it's almost like a ritual that you essentially, you know, as you're a youngster in Pavis, where you want to go to into the Big Rubble in the hope of making treasure. And during the period where this is set, 1619, the late basically 1610 through 1620 or so on, you have lots of exiles coming to Pavis, exiled primarily from Sartar due to the lunar invasion. So you have quite a wide mix of characters and backgrounds and cultures mixing in this small city, and then looking for work, and work all primarily pointing towards Pavis. So, and essentially the other thing about this is that this is, of course, the first time that this content has been in colour. So we open up, and we have an overview of the city. Another shot of more people there, potential adventurers, I suppose, sort of, you know, waiting at the gate where the lunar occupying forces are going to, you know, essentially count you in, count you out. A acknowledgements and noting that this is a work of archaeology, essentially having been constructed from the regional publications PDFs. Contents list, and then essentially talking about you know, what the book is, reviving the old series, and so on. The book is part one of two of the core background material, and that it's although it's written for the current iteration of RuneQuest rules, okay, RuneQuest Roleplaying in Glorantha, it's intended to be kind of well, a little bit old school in its style. So you just say that you are going to need these volumes. Now these volumes here are essentially, these are the original box sets. You can find them, they're not in comparison to some collectibles, they're not inexpensive, but you can find reprints as well. You can find PDFs too. So we have an outline of the campaign, how to run the campaign, and historical backdrop, okay, which runs through from 1619 to 1625, which is the default starting period for RuneQuest role-playing in Glorantha. And then we're getting to know the place. And the thing is, the other thing to bear in mind, that this likely will be superseded by essentially the content that Chaoisum is planning to publish itself on Pavis, which, as I said, is an important part of the setting. And for many people, actually, what RuneQuest was, it wasn't, you know, being essentially being part of the resistance against the lunar occupation. It was being far away from the lunar occupation in Pavis. So anyway, so we've got a description of Pavis. We've got a map, the town. So it's quite large, and then you can see it's stretching on. It's abutted to the wall of the Big Rubble, and that doesn't even show. That shows just like a fraction of how big the rubble is. So we've got more information about the setting. So the Pavis Knowledge Temple, the Lancor Mai involvement in the city, because you know what the Lancor Mai are regarding, essentially what they've got on the temple's doorstep is a big archaeological dig, full of mysteries and histories and things to uncover. So that's possible and possible a mission. Go with these grey sages and you know, find out what you can, help them find out what they can. So you've also got ties to Ripley on tour as well, because the occupation of Pavis by lunar forces means the lunar knowledge cult has a presence, and we've got essentially big maps of the temple. It's not receipts for the knowledge temple, so you know, you can use that as the basis for a campaign in Pavis. And then we're talking about Red Moon over Pavis, so this is talking about the lunar occupation of the town. And the other thing kind of brought Pavis to life was the Griselda stories by Oliver Dickinson, which are worth tracking down. I've done an unboxing of that. I've read some of the stories. I've got to read some more. And then we have regimental magic and spirits. So these are the magical forces that the Lunars have at their command in their occupation of the city. And the soldiers, so we've got stats for those. And then we've got talking about Pavis, the pacemaker and founder. So we're talking about the founder of the city and his associated cult. So expanding upon further content, then we have Big Rubble Generals. We finally get onto Big Rubble, and just to show you in comparison, see, that's the map of the Big Rubble, and that there, just there, that's where Pavis is. That's where New Pavis is. So that's the player's first map. Then you've got the detailed map of what they'll find out as they explore the region. So we've got Pavis County Gazetteer, so the wider area beyond the walls of the city and beyond the walls of just the Big Rubble, so Pavis County. Pavis County auxiliaries and mercenaries. So these are the forces that the player characters might encounter. And then part 2, background detail. So Pavic magic, spirit cults. So there's a lot of background detail here. Spirit cult raven, local dwarves, the Donadari of New Pavis, and his worship, and cult of Donadar. And that's, in some ways, this has already been officially superseded because you've got Donadar is covered, I think, in the 2 cult books published by Chaoisum, and then we have the criminal underworld. Because one of the aspects of the city is that it's rife with crime, and that comes through the Griselda stories by Oliver Dickinson. So we have things like the Whole Lord's Gang, the Hidden One, a Lambrel subcult. So there is the Lambrel thieves cult has a notable, but of course, hidden presence. We have another gang and some typical New Pavis criminals. Then we have the Trollkin Night Watch, because hey, who better to operate at night but actual, those capable of seeing and working at night, Trollkin. And then part 3, creating your adventurer. So we've got lots of options here in terms of your race, far more in fact than you would necessarily have in the core rulebook for RuneQuest Roleplaying at Glorantha. And then taking you further through the process, so you can create quite an interesting range of characters. So, for example, we have Lankormai subcults that player characters might join if they are a greybeard. Lankormai magic. So overall, this does mean that this falls under, your Glorantha may vary. Various NPCs, the Zolafell River Folk and the Cult of Zolafell. So useful if any of your player characters are ducks. Local river folk personalities. Continuing that trend you see in the Lunar book, for example, that's essentially also available on the Jonstown Compendium to cast notable actors as NPCs. And then the Old Pavis Aldrani and the local sun worshippers, they get some details. Cult of Yamalio in the region, and Yamalio Bird Rider. Got a list of gifts and guesses, so on. So you join the cult, you gain a benefit and a gift, but also you have a conscription guess. Suntown locals. So these could easily sort of tie off across, sort of like close to the Sun County books, Sun County, which is not too far away. And then we have part 4, Adventurers Assemble, Pre-generated Adventurers. So you've got several of those, complete with background, stats, full details, all ready to play, and basically all the Game Master has to do is to transfer them across to a player character. And then section New Faces in Town. This is introductory, getting involved and essentially how to bring the player characters in. It's got a recommended campaign, structure, and 2 adventures. So arriving in Pavis, background knowledge, character introductions, how you travel are all covered here. Arriving at New Pavis, finding accommodation, inns and taverns, of course. Encountering various places of interest. Notes on how to make a living, backed up with a few new Pavis encounters. So that, you can start adventuring, so on. Running into some local personalities, get involved in city life, and we have random Pavis bad side thugs there to make the player characters' lives difficult, run interference, badger them, rob them, and so on, or even might find employment with the player characters. Early employment, kind of first jobs. For example, burglary at Rouse House, so you've got a job for crook. Part 5, Ghost in the Darkness, fracas in New Pavis. And the other thing about a dedicated kind of city setting like Pavis is you can play characters you normally wouldn't play in RuneQuest. You can play a thief. You can play a Lambro cultist. You wouldn't admit it, but here we go. So yeah, next week. So you could easily do that robbery scenario. So we've got the Suicide Squad. Next up, a lengthier adventure, and that kind of takes it out into Sun County. Journey across Pavis County. To Blyford, nice little map there, nice, simple, clear. Of course, where you fight, you encounter the Sunhilda Condor Feather just on the travelling journey, where you might encounter the Pookie Bonkers gang. Yep, yeah, that probably just about sums them up with that illustration. And you've got full stats for them. And then out onto the borderlands. So this is really taking the player characters away from Pavis, out into the wider regions, and encountering several nasty creatures, including brew and manticores. So lots of detail here, lots of content to work with, and then we have part 6, iconic locations. So that includes the Pavis Temple, complete with, outside and inside maps. In full detail. Gimpy's Tavern. You know, famous right from the start. When you go back to it, actually appears in RuneQuest 2, classic RuneQuest 2. You know, so notable because essentially it's called Gimpy's because the owners have lost their leg, at least one leg, and it's butting up against the wall of the Big Rubble, and you can actually get into the rubble. I believe there's a secret entrance via Gimpy's. Geo's Inn. Geo's is essentially Geo's Inn. There's a Geo's Inn everywhere in RuneQuest, and there's certainly one in Pavis. And then we go into Bad Side, where the thugs and ne'er-do-wells live out, hang out. Then Bob's Bison Burger Emporium, and some adverts. And you know, you've got a couple of adverts, including one for the next book, The City That Time Forgot. Welcome to Old Pavis. So the companion volume, this is New Pavis. The next one is Old Pavis. We have yet more volumes to come. Some of them look pretty good. So yeah, that's Sitting on the Edge of Forever. Welcome to New Pavis 1619 ST. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here in the Nook with a box containing a book or game, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing of the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.